Now for the first time on TV, the stories and reports of the people who fly and the aircraft they fly. And you are invited in an exciting, pulse-pumping new television series designed for everyone who has ever gazed skywards and dreamt of slipping the bonds of Earth. The Aviators.
This week on The Aviators, we sit down with Mikey McBrien of TV's Ice Pilots.
You've ever been to Oshkosh before?
I've never been to Oshkosh. In fact, I've never been to Wisconsin.
We travel to the far north on the Midnight Sun Challenge.
Awesome. Just awesome.
And we take you on the flight of a lifetime aboard the Goodyear blimp. From the Boundary Bay Airport, this is The Aviators. As fans of The Aviators already know, aviation-based television shows are rare, and weekly aviation shows even more so. Ice Pilots NWT, now heading into its second season, is a weekly one-hour real-life docuseries following the exploits of the crew at Buffalo Airways. Buffalo provides passenger and freight services to the Northwest Territories in Canada's far north and operates rugged World War II aircraft in some of the most frigid conditions on the planet. On top of this, Buffalo is a family-run company, guaranteeing lots of drama for viewers. Led by the gruff but likable Buffalo Joe McBrien, son Rod takes on the responsibility of maintaining the fleet, and son Mikey oversees the day-to-day operations as general manager. With 2010 marking the 75th anniversary of the DC-3, Buffalo's DC-3 Summer Wages made its way down to AirVenture to mark the occasion.
So we're at Oshkosh, we're at AirVenture, and who do we run into? Mikey McBrien of Ice Pilots NWT. How you doing, Mikey?
Oh, great, Anthony. How are you doing?
I'm great. So what do you think? You've ever been to Oshkosh before?
I've never been to Oshkosh. In fact, I've never been to Wisconsin, and it's just amazing. It's absolutely mind-boggling. You know, it's a week-long, it's an adventure, really. The airplanes here are, most places you'd only read about them in a book. So this is a real big treat for someone from the Northwest Territories, for sure.
So when you were making your plans to come down here, I mean, you had to have something in your mind, what you thought you might expect to see, anywhere close to what you might have thought?
Yeah, this is insane. I'm speechless when it comes to the aircraft here, but it does kind of feel like home. You got the DC-4 back there. You got the DC-4's big brother, the DC-7. You got DC-3s. You couldn't throw a football without hitting one. You got DC-2 behind me. This is like, there's no words that can describe how cool this is.
So you had a conversation with a guy a day or two ago, and you're talking to him for about 10 minutes or so, and then you finally realize who he is and what he was involved in. Who is that?
Yeah, we're sitting there when the gentleman comes up and he's like, yeah, we're big fans of the show and all this stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, cool. And this other guy comes up and says, hey, you're the guy that landed the jet in the Hudson. I'm like, what? Is this Jeff? Yeah, this is the guy that landed. And that's insane. Like, for somebody who that you've seen on news like reels over and over again, the co-pilot Jeff that landed the jet in the Hudson is a fan of Ice Pilots. Blows me away. That is definitely, I'd be here for another 3 weeks. That'd definitely be the highlight.
So let's talk about Buffalo. What do you do at Buffalo, for those who don't know, for the 2 or 3 people that don't know?
There's probably about 10 people that yeah, I'm the general manager, which basically is kind of funny because I never ever had a title until the TV show came out, and they couldn't call me, something I had a swear word in it. So we just picked the name I had, and we said general manager. But basically, I just do what my father tells me, like any good son should do. So we operate DC-3s, DC-4s, C-46s, Canadair, CL-215s, anything with a radial engine, we kind of fly up there in northern Canada.
Now, of course, there's Ice Pilots NWT. Mm-hmm. So you go from being the general manager of Buffalo, working for your dad, and then all of a sudden, you're a TV star.
Yeah, that really came out of nowhere. I'm just an underachieving kid from Hay River. I don't deserve any accolades, I was just sitting in the office one day, just normal day, and a producer from Vancouver, David Gulson, phones up and says, hey, I read an article of you in the Globe Mail, do you want to be on TV? I was like, sure. That's one step closer to being a Simpsons character, which is my ultimate goal. I said, I jumped on the next WestJet flight down to Vancouver. I brought a bunch of newspaper clippings. We laid it on the table, and I said, what kind of story do you want to do? And he basically said, let's do it all. So we shot a pilot, we showed it to History Television, and said, not only do we want it, we're going to buy 13 one-hour episodes now. And then after that, it was kind of like a hobby, but now we're like, oh crap, we got to do the show. What are we going to do? So there's a little bit of nervousness. We started shooting. My father didn't believe it the whole time. It took him about 3 months. You know, his camera guys ran around filming him, and he was basically, what are you guys wasting your money for? We're not busy. There's nothing special's happening. But when you watch the show, it's like, oh yeah, we changed an engine at minus 40. I didn't even remember that. Like, so the good thing about the show, it's kind of like a yearbook. You just like, you know, you go to school, you get your yearbook, and you can remember. We got a good gift, which is the show, which we can now look back, and our great grandkids will be so sick of ice pilots.
So how often do you get out of Northwest Territories? I mean, now you're here in Oshkosh, but do you kind of tour a little bit? I mean, how recognized are you? How many swarms of fans come around you?
Actually, we're really lucky because in Yellowknife, because of the first season Ice Road Truckers was shot there, everyone's really jaded when it comes to television and stuff like that, and it's such a small community that it really, in Yellowknife, it's really humbling. You know, everyone's just normal, no one treats you any different, and they spit at you just like they spit at you before the TV show. So it's normal. This is the first event since the show aired that we actually went to, and it blows my mind that the amount of people that come up and the amount of Australians and New Zealand and UK and Ireland and places that I would love to visit one day are coming up saying you don't have to visit, you're in my living room every week, which is just totally blows my mind.
Wow, awesome. So what are your plans for the rest of the week here?
Well, actually, the NWT, tourism donated this golf cart to us. So I'm planning just to cruise around the golf cart and look around at all the different airplanes. Everywhere you look, every time you stop, you talk to somebody, turn around, there's a new airplane stand there. So the boys at EAA, I don't know where they find these airplanes, but they found them.
In 2009, Canada celebrated 100 years of aviation in our country. To celebrate that and to mark that amazing date, we had over 100 pilots fly coast to coast, Vancouver to Quebec, Nova Scotia. At the end of it, there was so much camaraderie and so much excitement, we couldn't let it end there. That very night, the Century of Flight Club was formed. We decided that this year, 2010, we had to do it again. So off we flew to Whitehorse, and here we are. Beautiful location, a ton of people, so much excitement. We're really happy to be here.
Known as the Midnight Sun Challenge, this 100 aircraft flight was led by the Aviator's creator, John Lovelace.
Oh, well, that's good. So you knew we were heading up. That I put a smile on my face.
John brought together a team of pilots and coordinators to help organize this momentous flight. With representatives from national and regional commercial airlines, air traffic control, and search and rescue, the flight brought together over 200 people in more than 100 airplanes. Unlike the flight in 2009, this flight did not originate from a single location. Instead, two legs were launched, from the east and from the west. The eastern group of 50 airplanes departed from Barrie, Ontario, and made overnight stops in Thunder Bay, Ontario, Brandon, Manitoba, and Wetaskiwin, Alberta, before arriving in the Yukon capital of Whitehorse.
I used to live up here. This is like coming home again. It's just awesome. Just awesome.
I'm glad everybody made it okay, and I understand there's still a few more to come, but the weather's nice and the hospitality is great here. So.
Another 40 airplanes marshaled in Quesnel, British Columbia, and made the flight to Whitehorse.
It's a terrific flight. Everything is, I'll tell you one thing, the weather here in British Columbia is a lot nicer than it was in Alberta.
All of you came up yesterday?
No, a couple of us come last night. These guys come this morning. You come today.
The full line of Cessna aircraft from 172s to Caravans found their way to the Yukon. Joining the Cessnas were a variety of Piper-built aircraft, Vans RVs, and some exotic aircraft, such as this Chinese-built Nanchang CJ-6 trainer. The CJ-6 was the Chinese People's Liberation Army Air Force's answer to the Soviet Yak-18. Featuring a 285 horsepower radial engine, over 3,000 of these aircraft were built and saw service in over 10 different countries. Today, approximately 200 of these aircraft are in the hands of private owners, and this example was a welcomed addition to the 2010 flight. Also joining the flight in Whitehorse was a pair of helicopters, a Robinson R-44 and a Bell 206. These two choppers took part in the daily flyouts that were the highlight of the flight. Based out of Eric Nielsen Whitehorse International Airport, the daily flyouts explored nearby sites in the historic Yukon Territory. From the picturesque town of Atlin to historic Dawson City, the day trips were not only a chance to explore the rugged Yukon, but also a chance to get a peek into the past and see an area frozen in time. While the Yukon provided a breathtaking background for the flight, according to the participants, the real highlight is exploring with a group of fellow aviators.
I like it. You know, I've been around aviation most of my life, and this is a good thing. Last year was a good thing, and this is a good thing. It's a good thing for aviation in general, and a good thing for a chance for pilots to exchange information and to get out there and aviate, which is what it's all about. It's great.
It's been really organized well, and the bonus here is all the logistics have been taken care of. For instance, this evening, come around 8 o'clock, the bus arrives to get us over to our hotel. I think that's excellent.
The support when you fly in a group really sort of helps to bring people's flight level skills to elevate that. Yeah, everybody had fun, and it's kind of neat traveling together as a group and being able to point out different things as you see from different vantage points.
The flight was a great success, and the organizer planning to make this a yearly event, with the 2011 destination set to be northern Saskatchewan. Lighter-than-air flight is the oldest form of aviation known to man. Steerable airships, known as dirigibles, date back to the 19th century. The Goodyear blimp is one of the most well-known and recognizable of these vessels flying today. While making appearances in the skies all across the country, the Aviators crew recently had a chance to get up close to the blimp. Curtis spoke to one of the blimp's pilots, Jerry Hassem, before he got a chance to experience lighter-than-air flight firsthand.
You can't think of a blimp without thinking of the word Goodyear. For seemingly forever, Goodyear has operated blimps across North America. We're here with Jerry Hassem, one of the Goodyear pilots from Akron, Ohio. Jerry, how long has Goodyear been operating blimps?
It goes back to 1926, and our first public relations blimp was named the Pilgrim, and we've had public relations blimps ever since.
And so how has blimp design and blimp operation changed since 1925?
The basic design is pretty standard, but the new things you'll see is the technology, which is in the cockpit and also in the instrumentation a little bit.
Unlike Zeppelins, which have a rigid internal frame, blimps are designed with a non-rigid airbag, also known as an envelope. The envelope is filled with a lifting gas, which supports the blimp's shape. A rigid structure known as a gondola is attached to the bottom of the airbag and is designed to carry the pilot and passengers. Engines at the rear of the gondola provide propulsion, while the traditional rudder and elevators provide the aerodynamic controls. This type of flying does have its own quirks, and Goodyear only hires pilots who are already licensed on more traditional aircraft.
Now, one of the first things that comes to my mind is, how do you get interested? How do you become a blimp pilot?
Each pilot has his own story, but I started as an A&P mechanic with a Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. I also had my fixed wing license commercially, and that's how I got started with Goodyear. I spent time as a mechanic, then moved into the pilot's position.
So you actually worked on the blimps before you flew them?
Yes, I did.
Wow, that's quite a transition.
And it was quite challenging because usually aircraft are stationary, but the blimp moves on the mast all the time, so that was quite a challenge.
So now where does a person go to actually get a blimp license? Presumably you didn't have that when you started.
We train right in Goodyear, and you come to Goodyear with a commercial helicopter license or a commercial fixed wing license. We train the pilot in the left seat, and it takes about 300 to 400 hours and about 6 to 12 months of training.
Curtis was lucky enough to ride along with Jerry on a flight. Getting the blimp up in the air, however, is an interesting experience. Takeoff in the Goodyear blimp is unlike any other aircraft. The gas used in the blimp is helium, which provides constant lift and pulls the blimp away from the Earth. Because of this, the airship is either constantly tethered to a mast or held by the ground crew. If the ground crew were to let go or the airship broke free of its tether, it would simply float away. While this would get the blimp into the air eventually, it would neither be an efficient nor a controllable way of traveling. So instead, the ground crew actually bounces the ship off the ground. The pilot then puts the engines to full throttle and tilts the elevators all the way back, and the ship takes off in dramatic fashion. While gaining altitude, the aircraft pitches up at an angle of 15 degrees. Once the blimp reaches its cruising altitude of 1,500 feet, Jerry levels off the airship.
We'll get this thing tuned up right here and ready for a nice cruise flight around the facility. Now the ship's going to pitch up and down like this because of the air currents, thermals. So that's typically normal for the ship.
So you're not doing it just to put on a show and attract attention?
No, because so I don't go up in altitude, I got to pitch over a little bit.
So now we've got a whole lot of helium in here keeping us in the air. What's the weight of this ship right now?
Everything together about 12,500 pounds.
So 12,500 pounds take how many cubic feet of helium?
200 to 800. So 202,800.
Wow. So there's no fancy propulsion controls. These are all just the rudder and elevators we see at the back of the ship.
Yeah, this wheel controls my elevators, which controls the pitch on the bag, which controls our dynamic lift. So if I want to descend, I'll roll this wheel down. It'll lower the bag, and if we look at our VSI over here, we're in descent. Yep. Conversely, it's like pulling back on the yoke of an airplane. I'll pull back on this wheel. We'll pitch the bag up, which we all know kind of increases the dynamic lift. And lo and behold, we look down our VSI, and we have a climb going.
Now, one of the things that's so interesting to me about a blimp is in an airplane, when you're flying, if you pitch the nose up, your speed tends to bleed, and if you pitch the nose down, you tend to increase speed. What about a blimp?
Very slight variations.
So we do 30 miles an hour up?
Yeah, 30 miles an hour down. Very slight variations. Steering, turning left and right, is accomplished by pure yaw. The pedals down in front control the rudders back and forth like a rudder of a boat. So if I want to go left, I'll push that left rudder, and these are geared, and the other one will come back towards me. Then we'll go into a left turn.
The controls are like a conventional airplane in that they have to have air flowing over them for them to function then.
Yeah, exactly. And you had mentioned how we stop the movement. Watch this. You go a little bit opposite rudder, wait on it, then you neutralize. And there you have it right there. I mean, that's it. As you remember, you have 12,000 pounds moving in one direction, so it takes time and opposite force to stop the turn.
Now, it sounds kind of silly, but it feels like we're just sort of sitting here floating. There's no real sensation of movement, or not the usual sensations you feel in an airplane.
An airplane, correct. And it's just more like floating, and you're almost like you're in a bubble.
The blimp floats along at speeds of just 30 to 35 miles per hour. This allows the occasional lucky passenger to really take in the earth around them, and if the weather is right, you can even open the windows and feel the breeze moving past.
So now there's two engines on the back of this blimp that power us. What kind of engines are they?
Those are Continental IO360s. They're injected, opposed, and 360 cubic inches.
200 horsepower airplane engines, basically.
210 horsepower engines, and they're 6 cylinders.
Now the propellers on this being fully reversing, that's a bit unusual for a fixed wing airplane with a piston and power plant.
You're exactly right. We can go into beta and reverse in flight, which you're not going to see too often.
As the blimp moves through the air, the pressure inside the envelope can fluctuate. Two compartments within the blimp, called ballonets, are filled with air and are designed to balance out the pressure. As the helium inside the envelope expands, Jerry has to vent air out of the ballonets. If the helium were to contract, scoops behind the engines can pull air back into the ballonets. Not maintaining careful, constant pressure would cause the envelopes to lose their shape and could potentially collapse. This careful pressure dance, along with the sheer size of the blimp, can make for some interesting flying.
So what do you think are some of the most tricky things about learning to fly a blimp?
Learning to fly a blimp is different from the aircraft because an aircraft you're used to having a wide open runway in front of you, 3,000 feet, 5,000 feet. With a blimp, as you see, we're landing in Pioneer Field, tight area. Yeah. So I've got to be used to obstacles. I have to be used to the size of the airship. It's 200 foot long, 192 to be exact, but it's a large, I have 100 feet in front of me and 100 feet behind me, so I got to be aware of that. So those are some of the things I'm concerned about. Also, I'm concerned about the winds. Sometimes the winds shift a little bit back and forth, and we have such a large sail area, the ship could be, turned a little bit. So I have to anticipate that. That's why the crew chief holds a windsock all the time, so I can see exactly what the wind's doing before I get there.
So now you actually fly this blimp to all the different events that you fly over.
You're right. The ship flies wherever it goes. So when we have to move it, we put 2 pilots in here, and we'll share the duties. We'll fly an hour on and an hour off in the ship, and our travels take us about 8 to 10 hours a day, but it's all based on distance.
Okay.
And when we get to our destination, we'll put the mast up that you see on Pioneer Field there, and we'll put the ship on it, go to the hotel, have a good dinner, and get up the next day and move.
Operating a blimp is not as simple as some might think. Pressure within the envelope has to be maintained even while on the ground, and takeoff and landing require the help of a sizable ground crew.
Now logistically, there was a whole lot of people that had a hold of those ropes. How many people travel with the blimp?
There's 21 of us on the road, 16 crew members, 4 pilots, and 1 public relations manager. That comprises the crew. And also, you probably saw the vehicles on the ground. We have a tour bus and a tractor trailer rig that houses all our tools and spare equipment for the airship.
Now you mentioned that somebody's with this blimp 24 hours a day when it's on the road, so somebody guards this all the time, even when it's in the hangar?
You're exactly right. Even at the hangar watch, somebody will be there. So when we're back in the hangar, the ship will be watched.
So from birth to retirement, somebody's watching over this airship 24 hours a day?
Correct.
Landing the Spirit of Goodyear is extremely complicated and requires Jerry's full concentration.
We can see the runway at Pioneer Airfield in Oshkosh, and we can see the crew members, the 16 crew members lined up in a V formation. And in the middle, we can see somebody's holding a windsock, which is helping Jerry get an idea of exactly which way he's got to approach. When the blimp lands and takes off, it does so directly into the wind. At the same time, he's managing the energy of the airplane. The blimp rather, because he needs enough air to make the control surfaces effective so he can control our approach. But he's got to get this 12,000 pounds of blimp slowed down so that these 16 people on the ground can actually catch us when we get close.
Ground handling is definitely low-tech and hasn't changed much in 80 years. 2 groups of 4 handlers run in and grab each of the 2 bow lines on the airship. Holding these lines keeps the ship steady as another group pulls the ship to the ground.
Well, that was super smooth and super impressive, Jerry. I can't say thank you enough.
Yep, you're welcome. My pleasure.
That was really incredible. What an opportunity of a lifetime.
The Goodyear blimp flies low and slow. It can only carry 6 passengers, and it takes gobs of manpower to maintain. However, this majestic giant is the perfect platform for aerial photography and can provide the ride of a lifetime. But the real achievement for this flying machine is that it's burned the name Goodyear into the minds of several generations of Americans.
The Aviators, for everyone who has ever gazed skywards.
For more information on today's segments, visit www.theaviators.tv.